All right, let's talk about something you've probably heard thrown around in the enterprise world, Red Hat OpenShift. If you've heard the name, but you're not exactly sure what it is, or maybe why it even matters, you are in the right place. Let's get into it.
Okay, so to really get OpenShift, we first have to talk about what it's built on. And in today's tech world, there's one name that rules them all: Kubernetes. It is the absolute industry standard for managing containers. You know, those little self-contained packages that hold an application and everything it needs to run. It's just how modern software is built and scaled.
But here's the real question, right? What happens when you're not just wrangling a few containers, but thousands of them? What happens when you have dozens of teams, all with their own projects and environments? Well, what happens is that the kingdom can get a little chaotic. And that is the exact problem we're digging into.
So, before we jump to the solution, let's lay a little groundwork. We're going to start with the typical path that most developers and ops teams take when they step into this whole cloud-native world.
You know, the journey usually looks something like this. First, you dip your toes in with containers themselves. Maybe you learn Docker. Then you realize you need a way to manage a ton of them, so you level up and learn an orchestrator. And that's almost always Kubernetes. But for a lot of big organizations, there's a final step: mastering a complete platform that's built on top of all of it. And, yep, that's where OpenShift comes into the picture.
So let's be crystal clear on what Kubernetes is and what it isn't. At its heart, Kubernetes is a container orchestrator. Its job is to automate all the hard stuff involved in deploying and scaling apps, and it's incredibly powerful at that job. But its focus is specifically on orchestration. It doesn't give you everything you need right out of the box.
And that leads us straight into the big enterprise challenge. This is where just using standard open source Kubernetes by itself can start to feel a lot like trying to manage a kingdom that's spiraling into chaos.
Let's make this really concrete with a little analogy. Just picture a huge company, one with a ton of different software products.
And just to keep the math simple, let's say this company has 20 different major products that they are actively developing and maintaining.
Now, for every single one of those 20 products, they need, at the very least, a dev environment for the coders, a QA environment for the testers, and, of course, a production environment for the actual customers. So that's 20 products times 3 environments, which gets us to 60 different, distinct environments.
And here's where it gets kind of nuts. If each of those 60 environments runs on its very own Kubernetes cluster, well, you suddenly have over 60 separate Kubernetes clusters that you have to manage, secure, update, and patch. The complexity just exploded.
In this kind of sprawl, it really hurts. I mean, with 60 separate open source clusters, who do you call for support at 3 a.m. when something breaks? Nobody. The management overhead is just huge. And your team has to manually find, integrate, and maintain all the other tools you need for building software, for monitoring, for security. This whole setup almost always leads to inconsistent and fragile environments all across the company.
This exact problem is why Red Hat OpenShift was created. It's designed to step in and bring order to all of that enterprise-scale chaos.
Now listen closely to the language here. OpenShift isn't just an orchestrator. It is a full-on container application platform. See the difference? It takes Kubernetes as its powerful engine and then extends it, building in a whole suite of integrated tools designed specifically for the security, management, and developer needs of a really big company.
This little equation right here is probably the most important takeaway. Just think of OpenShift as Kubernetes plus everything else you would normally have to find, integrate, and manage yourself. It bundles things like CI/CD pipelines, for automating your software releases, along with monitoring, security tools, and developer-friendly UIs, all into one cohesive package.
So what does that all-in-one platform actually look like? Come on, let's take a quick look inside.
This comparison really tells the whole story. With standard open-source Kubernetes for every key piece of the puzzle, like a user interface or monitoring, the answer is bring your own tool. You have to do all the work to choose it, integrate it, and support it. With OpenShift, it's a totally different approach. You get a powerful web console built in. You get CI/CD automation with Tekton built in. You get a full observability suite built in. And maybe most importantly, you get 24/7 enterprise support from Red Hat. It's a true batteries-included experience.
And one of the most powerful features under the hood is something called operators. The easiest way to think about them is as automated experts. An operator knows exactly how to install, manage, and upgrade a specific piece of software, like a database.
So it turns what would normally be a really complex manual process into a simple one-click action. It's an absolute game changer for simplifying day-to-day operations.
Now, OpenShift isn't just this one single product. It's actually a platform that comes in a bunch of different flavors, and it's designed to run just about anywhere you can think of.
For instance, you can get OpenShift as a fully managed service on the big public clouds, like ROSA on AWS or ARO on Azure. You can run a version right on your laptop for local development with OpenShift Local. There's even a tiny version called MicroShift that's designed for edge computing devices, like you'd find in a factory or on a wind turbine. The key idea here is you get a consistent platform no matter where your apps need to run.
But you knew this was coming, right? There's no free lunch. When you adopt a platform this powerful, there is a significant trade-off. So what's the catch?
It really all comes down to this. On the one hand, OpenShift is not free. It's an expensive enterprise product. It can be pretty complex to install yourself, and yeah, it does create a certain amount of vendor lock-in with Red Hat. But on the other hand, what you're paying for is an enterprise-ready, fully supported platform that gives your developers these incredible self-service tools that can make them massively more productive.
Which brings us right to our final question, the one for you to think about. For your project, for your company, what's the right balance? Is the absolute freedom and the complexity of building your own platform from scratch the right way to go? Or is the integrated power, the support, and the speed of a platform like OpenShift worth the cost? It's a huge decision every large tech organization has to make. Thanks for tuning in.